our story begins with a businessman who had a pretty comfortable life in his home country, but he harbored this massive, all-consuming dream to travel abroad and build an absolute empire. Now, what's kind of crazy here is the sheer timeline of his life choices. You see, his family tells him it's time to settle down, so he gets married. But just a few months later, his ambition completely takes over. He actually tells his pregnant wife he needs to go abroad to earn his fortune. She supports him, so he leaves her with his parents, sails away, and just throws himself completely into his work.
And he doesn't just go for a quick business trip. No, he stays away for 16 to 17 years. Let that sink in. That's almost 2 decades of missed family milestones, missed birthdays, and completely missing his child growing up. He just sends letters and money back home while single-mindedly building his financial empire across the sea. Having finally amassed the massive fortune he set out to find, he decides, okay, it's time to go back. He books a long sea journey home, and on this ship, he encounters a sad, wise man who is about to change his life forever.
The businessman notices this guy looking incredibly sorrowful and just asks him what's wrong. The wise man replies, "I came here to sell my wisdom, but no one is interested in buying it." Well, our businessman, flush with cash and feeling pretty generous and successful, decides to invest in some wisdom from his fellow passenger. He tells the wise man to share just one piece of wisdom, and in exchange he offers to pay him a staggering 500 gold coins. It's a fortune. Naturally, the wise man happily accepts this extraordinary offer and delivers his premium advice. And here it is. Before doing anything in life, think for 2 minutes. That's it. A simple, almost underwhelming sentence that carries a massive, life-altering price tag. The businessman hands over the gold, figuring this is highly valuable advice, even if it seems, incredibly basic on the surface.
So, our businessman finally arrives home after his long voyage. It's the dead of night, and he wants to completely surprise his loyal wife after nearly 2 decades away.
Just picture this scene. He quietly sneaks into his own house, tiptoes into his bedroom in the pitch dark, and looks at the bed. He sees his wife sleeping soundly. But then, as his eyes adjust to the darkness, he spots a young boy asleep right next to her. Instantly, a wave of dark, terrible conclusions just floods his mind. He's thinking, I have worked so hard all these years, sacrificed absolutely everything, and my wife is here with someone else? Blinded by this sudden rage and a profound sense of absolute betrayal, he literally grabs a sword, fully intending to execute them both right there on the spot. So, will he strike or will he think? The tension is at its absolute peak right here. We've got a raised sword, a sleeping wife, an unidentified young man, and a split-second decision that is absolutely guaranteed to ruin multiple lives and end in total tragedy. Right before that heavy blade is about to fall, something stops him. That incredibly expensive, unbelievably simple advice suddenly echoes in his furious, racing mind. That forced 2-minute pause literally breaks his murderous momentum. He stops, and as he lowers his arm, his sword accidentally hits a metal pot, and that loud clang shatters the silence of the room, instantly waking his wife.
This perfectly captures how our angry, reactive minds invent massive false realities. She wakes up, sees her husband, and is absolutely overjoyed, saying she's waited so long for his return. But he is still furious, demanding to know who the boy in the bed is. He is operating completely on his wild assumption, while the reality is, well, completely different.
His wife happily calls the sleeping boy over, saying, "Son, come touch your father's feet. He's finally come home." The child gets up and bends down to show respect. And as they do, the turban falls off their head and long hair spills out. His wife explains the beautiful truth. Because he was gone for so long, she raised their daughter like a son to protect her. The young lover was actually his own child. Standing there in the bedroom, just staring at his wife and daughter, the businessman finally gets it. Those 500 gold coins bought him his salvation. They saved him from making a terrible, irreversible, and entirely tragic mistake based purely on a temporary surge of anger.
This old story brilliantly teaches us that acting in haste or anger almost always leads to a disaster. But we can actively prevent this by following 3 really simple steps. Step 1, feel the impulse of blinding anger. Step 2, pause and wait for 2 minutes. Step 3, act with clarity instead of haste. That pause is what allows your rational brain to finally catch up with your emotional brain.
Now look, while most of us aren't swinging literal swords in dark bedrooms today, we swing metaphorical swords all the time. That forced pause can totally save us from our own modern-day destructive impulses. Things like hitting send on a fiery, career-ending email, shouting in a road rage incident, or making a wildly rash financial decision just because we feel panicked or disrespected.
So, I'll leave you with this final thought to reflect on. What terrible consequence could you avoid today by just taking 2 minutes to think? Because the space between a heated impulse and a hasty action is exactly where our true wisdom lives. And the best part? That wisdom doesn't have to cost you 500 gold coins. You already have it.